This is a story about my younger brother, Maddison. A remarkable story that most of you have never heard of or would never have known otherwise. A story that is so unique that I don't know if this has happened, but maybe a handful of times in history across all sports. And most certainly is the first time it's happened in volleyball. What if I told you that the kid who became the #1 recruit of his class, who went on to play D1 in college, and later went on to win the 2017 AVP San Francisco Open, did all of that, accomplished all of that with his non-dominant hand? What if I told you that Maddison was actually right-handed? That he writes with his right hand, he throws a football with his right hand, throws a baseball with his right hand, plays darts with his right hand, shoots a basketball with his right hand, does literally everything with his right hand except hit a volleyball? What if I told you that everything Maddison has accomplished in volleyball and beach volleyball has been with the use of his backup arm? Let me explain. This is the story of a kid with unknowing perseverance who never knew the fear of failure. The kind of kid who was going to finish the race regardless of whether it stalled the entire swim meet, and despite being on the verge of drowning, you couldn't fish him out of the pool if he tried. He only knew one speed, and granted it was a speed that was definitely nothing to brag about, but it was always his max effort. He had a stutter.
You know he never does
And
that.
although it might have taken him a while, he always finished his thought no matter what. He survived me as an older brother.
Oh!
Why do you punch him, Riley?
Which was no easy feat, let me tell you. Perseverance was simply a way of life for this kid. So when the doctors told him he had to stop all sports at 11 years old, there was only one option. Now let's fast forward to the present day. We now play professional beach volleyball on the AVP tour together as a team. So what you'll notice is I play on the left side, my brother plays on the right side. I hit with my right hand, Maddison hits with his left hand. And although I am much stronger than him, he does hit significantly harder than I do. So when people see Maddison hit with his opposite hand, his right hand, people often say, wait, was that his right hand?
Against him. He was a great player for France. McKibbin got the point, and it looked like he swung the time with his right hand.
Or, wow, that was pretty good for his offhand, huh?
Oh,
That's impressive. Like, nobody on planet Earth does that right now.
Or they just chalk it up to a fluke lucky contact. You sometimes see this in our sport. Players will sometimes spend a lot of time working on the coordination of their offhand, so when the time calls for it, they can use it more effectively. Sean Rosenthal has done it.
Rosie goes with the left hand and it finds the line. He's ambidextrous, if you didn't know that.
Micah Christensen has spent a lot of time developing his left arm. But in every case, something always looks a little bit off. It never looks like your dominant hand. Now, in our story, High School Hero to Zero, Maddison talks about the rises and many falls of his career. But he failed to include a very important key detail that makes that story all the more remarkable. When we were younger, we spent a lot of time together. We always went to the same school, literally though, from preschool all the way to the end of college.
They're gonna jump against each other. Ooh, big matchup.
And if we weren't playing on the same teams, we'd be at each other's games and practices. Our parents would drag us there every time. Going to Maddison's piano practices were the absolute worst. Whatever the older brother did, the younger brother followed. I started playing soccer. Okay, well, let's just throw Maddison on Riley's team. I wanted to learn to be a ninja. Okay, sounds good. Maddison, you're going to. Time to learn to swim. Okay, let's throw Maddison in the pool as well. Basketball, football, soccer, volleyball, taekwondo. We were always a package deal. And when we weren't playing organized sports, we'd entertain each other by playing in the backyard or on the street. We literally had no choice. We needed each other to avoid boredom at all costs. So when I started playing volleyball at age 11, that meant that, yep, Maddison was starting too, at 9 years old. And it was brilliant because every day after school, we could practice together in the backyard, and we did exactly that for a couple of years. And right off the bat, Maddison showed a lot of promise. He was one of, if not the best player on his club team. Until one day he started complaining about some elbow pain in his right arm. I remember thinking, it's probably Maddison just exaggerating again, like how he always does, but sure enough, the pain continued and got much worse. At the time, Maddison was playing quarterback for his flag football team, and the doctor said that the cartilage in his right elbow had died from all of the throwing that he'd been doing. They said he was too young for surgery, so they prescribed rest. Like over a year of rest. And that was it. No more sports. Now, up until that point, Maddison used his right arm for literally everything. He wasn't the sort of forward-thinking athlete who wanted to develop their non-dominant hand for things like left-handed layups. Not being able to use his right arm anymore basically made it nearly impossible to play any of the sports he had been playing. Definitely no more football, he couldn't throw. No more basketball. I mean, shooting was already not his forte with his right hand.
Nice shot, Maddie.
Let alone his left.
Rouse, will you rebound for him? Maddie's got to work on his shooting.
Soccer would be the obvious choice, but this was right around the time when you have to start running before and after practice to condition. Yeah, Maddison wasn't doing that. But volleyball, he could still contribute.
So I couldn't hit with my right hand, but I could pass and I could set. And I spent the next year as a setter, but on the side, I did what every other kid would do if they lose their ability to play with their dominant hand. They experiment and fool around with playing with their less dominant, less coordinated, in my case, my left hand. I distinctly remember going to PE at this time, and it just so happened that we were learning volleyball, and that was my jam. That's when I was better than all the other kids. And I remember standing at the service line and having to put my right foot forward instead of my left, and tossing up and just trying to just make contact with the ball and just practice, just trying to get it over the net. Now, if this were a movie, the character, myself, would have gotten it first time and everyone would have been blown away. But it wasn't that first PE class, it wasn't the second PE class. It was like 6 other PE classes until I finally got the ball over the net. And that was like the moment where I was like, maybe I could actually do this. So once I got that through my head that maybe I could do this, the next step was going to be, okay, how do I change my approach to hit left-handed? Or how would a left-handed hitter hit? So before practice, or whether it be PE, I'd always have to say left, right, left, right. I always had to say that over and over in my head just to make it easier on myself to hit left-handed. So from there, I got a little obsessed of trying to experiment of what could I possibly do on or off the court to improve the coordination of my left hand. So I tried writing left-handed in class. Yes, I wasn't paying attention. I would lay down on the ground with a tennis ball and like toss it up in the air. It wasn't that consistent. It went all over the place. I would stand in the mirror and like practice a right arm swing to like try and replicate it with my left arm. All I wanted to do was to be able to hit the ball with my left hand, because hitting at that age was the only fun part about playing volleyball. So I was gonna do whatever it took to figure out how to make this hand do what this hand could do before.
And so this routine continued. Day after day, year after year, he continued to improve the coordination and the power of his left hand. Until one day, it became official. He was now a lefty. Kinda. Yet throughout this period of transitioning from his right hand to his left hand, his right elbow was quietly healing. And because he had been using his right hand for everything except for sports up until that point, he lost little to no motor skills whatsoever in his right hand. So the question now became, which hand does he choose? I mean, what would you do? Would you go back to your dominant arm? I would. I can't even imagine getting to the point of ambidexterity to where that question would actually be difficult to answer. Or to the point where I end up choosing to stick with my non-dominant left hand, like Maddison did. It's absurd.
Something serious that happened to his right arm. So he just switched. He became a lefty and then stayed. Once he got healthy, he stayed as a lefty, but still had that ability with his right hand.
Maddison chose to stay left-handed and still went on to become the best player in the nation of his high school class.
Maddison, McKibbin.
Accepted a college scholarship to play at USC and later went on to win the 2017 AVP San Francisco Open. All with his non-dominant hand. The funny thing is that he has just as much, if not more, power and control in his right hand than he does in his left now.
Maddison, probably the most pure ambidextrous player. A lot of players play with both hands, but Maddison could legitimately play an entire tournament with his right hand if he wanted to.
Once in a blue moon, we'll hear whispers of some fabled ambidextrous pitcher or a quarterback who can throw with both arms. Well, Maddison is the only pure yet self-taught ambidextrous volleyball equivalent that I've ever known. So yeah, the story is pretty cool because of the fact that a kid was able to train his non-dominant hand to become his dominant hand and then do some pretty incredible things at the highest level of his sport. But for me, this story is about much more than that. The fear of failure, we're all familiar with it, but for some reason, Maddison, he just never had that. He never once cared about making mistakes.
Donatello.
Donatello, what's your name?
Michelangelo.
The concept of embarrassing himself was so foreign that even to this day, he has no problem making a fool of himself. And regardless of what he was doing, he was gonna finish the job, no matter how long it took. No, he didn't know how to backstroke, yet he was still gonna enter in that race. And good luck prying him out of that pool before he collected that ribbon. And yeah, he stuttered. He still stutters, but he'd always finish what he's got to say, no matter how long it took. And yeah, the doctors told him that he could no longer use his right arm. But
God so fit to grace me with despair.
You know, Maddison never preached embrace failure or seek discomfort. I don't even think he was aware of what he was doing at the time. Actually, I know for a fact he wasn't aware of it. But for me, reflecting back upon this story, what I learned from Maddison was that failure can be fun. Failure is fun. And even to this day, he carries that mantra with him. He's always the first to volunteer himself for shit like this. Fire dancing in Thailand. Fire dancing in Kauai. Eating a hot chili in the Maldives. Eating a shellfish off some random guy's boat in Costa Rica. Look, we often are presented with setbacks in life, whether it be injuries or some other misfortune, and we treat them as such. Setbacks set us back. But Maddison showed that there is another path. Resilience is bouncing back, but maybe the goal shouldn't always be to bounce back to where you once were. From what I remember, as kids, we never treated his elbow as a setback, but more as a fork in the road, still pushing forward, because anything other than that was just a waste of time, and to be totally honest, just boring. Who was I gonna play with in the backyard if Maddison didn't just suck it up and switch hands?
Word on the street was his brother Riley made him switch so he didn't have to sit out and pepper sessions in the backyard.
Yeah, probably. Probably had something to do with Riley.
When you're presented with a setback, how quickly and how creatively can you reframe it? Don't think of resilience as bouncing back to where you once were. True resilience is defying gravity and bouncing further and faster, and sometimes in a different reframed direction.
No, the Maddie's right here. Riley's down there in the next one. Go, Maddie! He's not swimming yet. Go, Maddie! Here's Maddie.
All right, Maddison.
You may have to rescue him, Harv.
Try to tow him a little bit. Huh?
Yeah. Maybe push him along.
Maddie.
Come on, Maddie! Go ahead, swim freestyle. Go, go, go.
Finish up.
Finish up, swim freestyle. No, you're gonna do backstroke.
You can finish freestyle now.
Hey, Maddison, turn over on the front. There
That's it. Go, go, go.
Come on, you wanna grab him? Tell him to come out hard.
Here, Maddie, you want me to tow you?
Come on out.
There you go.
Go, Maddie, go.
Go, Maddie.
Go, Maddie.
Come on, Maddie.
Go, Maddie, go. Go, Maddie, go. Go, Maddie, go.
Go, Maddie, go! All right! Keep going, Maddie!
Keep it up. That's it.
I'm so proud of you.